Story time! My granddad was a carpenter, kind of like Jesus, but slightly less responsible for the Crusades. Anyways, he left my dad a bunch of loads of wood cutting stuff, and now it's finally time for me to go on an adventure and learn the family trade as I attempt to learn wood carving in less than 24 hours. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so these have been in the garage for the best part of 2,000 years and look a little bit worse for wear, so time to use my superpower known as blind unadulterated confidence to sharpen them all. Still have no idea what unadulterated means, but I'm gonna keep using it because it sounds funny. Okay, how on God's green earth do I do this? Let's hit the interweb. Okay, I'll look at a video of an old white guy who was born in a time where you could probably buy a property without putting down a deposit of your vital organs. All of the videos and resources that I use today will be in the description down below. Right, I'm an expert on it now, let's sharpen these things. I also had to clean all of the stones. According to the interweb, there are two different types of stones. You have oil stones and water stones, and you can tell the difference using a magnet. Turns out mine are oil stones, and so I clean them using WD-40 and a lot of scrubbing. I also leveled them using some wet and dry sandpaper. I decided to test out the sharpness of all of my tools, and I think they were okay. I don't really have anything to compare it to. That took me a lot longer than I was expecting it to, but now it's time to choose my first project. I decided to go with a fox because it looked somewhat achievable, but also quite fun. It started off being quite difficult to cut, but when I got used to cutting with the grain, it started to get that little bit easier.
It should only take you between 30 minutes and 50 minutes to complete.
It took me 2 hours. Everything is way too fat, and the head shape I really struggled with. It doesn't really look like a fox, it looks more like Jolteon from Pokemon. But for my first ever attempt at wood carving, I'm actually pretty happy with that. Even if it did take me 2 hours. Like, you can tell it's an animal, right? And it's got 4 legs. I realised that the project not going exactly right could not possibly be a skill issue, and it had to be because of my tools. So I went back to sharpening my knife. I didn't have any buffing compound, but some random person on the internet told me that toothpaste works just as well, and it comes with the added benefit that my entire garage now smells like mint. Go me! The second project that I wanted to have a go at actually appeared on my suggested videos a while back, and I remembered it, so I just had to give it a go. It's like a tree face thing. But all of the cuts pretty much focus on the corner, so it was much easier to cut than the previous one. And it gave me a chance to try out the V tool, which is just a chisel but in a V shape, and gives you these nice sort of channels along the side. While doing this, all of the cuts were fairly straightforward, but in order to cut the eyes out, you had to do this sort of pyramid shape, which was actually kind of difficult in my opinion. This project was uber duper fun, it only took me about an hour, but I reckon if I did it again, it would be a lot quicker. The algorithm then popped off and recommended me another carving project called the 5-Minute Wizard. Being called the 5-Minute Wizard, I assumed that it would take 5 minutes, and I could just bust it out super duper quickly. There is a common theme I'm feeling with all of these wood carving projects, which is that the time I'm told how long it should take is absolutely nowhere near at all how long it actually takes. This project was a lot more difficult than the previous one because I had a lot less room to work with, everything was much smaller. Still, I think it turned out alrighty, although I'm not overly happy with how much progress I'm making, so I decided to jump back to the internet in hopes that it solves all of my problems. And my goodness it did! I found this video which explained to me about the 4 different types of cuts that I should be using, the V-cut, pyramid cut, sweep cut and stop cut, and gave me advice on each. So I then spent 30 minutes practicing all of these different types of cuts on some spare wood, and I do feel like I got a lot better. And I also found this video which explained really well how the wood grain affects carving. But it also got me really wanting to try relief carving, so that's the next project. And this took me a long time, and it was really a lot more difficult than I assumed it was. I decided to try carving a tree because that seemed like it would be somewhat easy to do. The first step with relief carving is to use a V tool to outline the shape. Then it was suggested to lower the background slightly with some chisels, and effectively just repeat that over and over again at different depths to give yourself the carving. I abandoned this twice because it was frustrating me so much, but on the 3rd attempt I thought it was kind of working, and then disaster struck. The base broke. And I feel like that is the most frustrating thing about wood carving, is you can just be carving for hours and then you do one thing and it just breaks everything. Very frustrating. But because that took so long and the basic need for human sustenance, it was now getting quite late, so it was time for my final project. Something that was going to show how I'd improved since my first forks this morning. So I got to work. And then I was done. It's the Seabro octopus from Seabro Creations. That's me. And it took me 4 hours. And yes, it's not perfect. There are some mistakes. There are some chipped pieces of wood. But I'm actually really happy. If you had told me yesterday that I would be able to create something like this, having never touched wood carving tools before in my life, I would think you as a silly goose. But it doesn't matter what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. If you are a pro at this sort of stuff and have any advice to give me, then also let me know in the comments down below. And finally, if you know what the hell to do with all of these wood chippings that I now have in my garage, let me know in the comments down below. But have an awesome weekend, and I will see you guys next time.